Have a seat. Yep, I think we're good. Perfect. All right. I'll hand it over to Cordero, our Speed Lab director right now.
Well, just about to say it. Shouldn't I do like a little introduction before we just get up here and do that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So everybody, my name, for those of you who are not familiar with me, I am Dr. Cordero O'Shea. I am a postdoc here, and my current title is the Speed Lab Coordinator working with the UNLV Sports Innovation Institute. So appreciate you all, one, being interested in our guest speaker today. So thank you all for coming here, showing your undivided attention for our guest speaker here. Part of the Sports Innovation Institute's mission is career development and exposure, and that's being able to bring to you all individuals, experts in the field, so you all can actually have an understanding of what to do with your degree besides just say, I got to shoot a paper with kinesiology on it, and not understanding what career paths are out there. So it's great if you can actually interact with professionals in the field that can give you their perspective, that can give you their start, and give you their background on how they got into their current positions as well. So with that being said, I will turn it over to a well-traveled, a well-distinguished individual. His name is John Wall. He is the Director of Strength and Conditioning for UNLV men's basketball. He has a very, very decorated career, starting at University of Pacific, all the way to working in the NBA, which I'll let him cover later. So thank you all for showing up, and if you could please give your undivided attention to Mr. John Wall, and the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I'm like, thank you for having me. Like, this is awesome. I love talking to people who are interested not only in strength and conditioning, but also getting into sports and trying to find a career that kind of fits kind of your interests and kind of what you want to do. I'm not a very formal person, so you know, I can do it. I would rather this be super interactive. So as I'm talking, and you guys have questions, like, please just raise your hand. I want to provide as much value and insight as I can. So if you have any questions about things specific, like, just stop me and I'll try to hit topics you guys are kind of interested in. But like you said, John Wall, I am the Director of Sports Performance for men's basketball here at UNLV. My role here is a little different than what I've had before, because in the past, I've kind of had smaller staff, so I'm kind of wearing multiple hats, if that makes sense. I'm used to doing the nutrition, doing the sports science, and all that stuff. So getting here has actually allowed me to actually have specialists in each of one of those areas, and I kind of help manage all that and bring it all together for our sports performance team. So it is myself. I handle all of the strength and conditioning. We have a head athletic trainer, a sports scientist, and a nutritionist. What I love about that is that it allows us to go a little deeper into those specific areas instead of just having one person run all of that, if that makes sense. So what I do is, with my job as a strength coach, is basically I am preparing our athletes for their sport. It's pretty that simple, right? You have the demands of the sport. They're going to come with me. I'm going to train them to prepare their bodies so they can withstand their sport, to keep them healthy, rehab them if they do get hurt, and as they get back. So I oversee kind of all of that. So I'm kind of the generalist in the group. I have a little bit of knowledge, kind of a background in each one of those things. Our head athletic trainer, he's going to handle all of injuries, right? You guys know what an AT is. He's going to handle, if you have an injury, you can go see him. He's going to do treatment. He's going to diagnose, work with team doctors, maybe get imaging and all that kind of stuff. So he's kind of more medical on that side. Our sports scientist, what she does is we do a lot of testing, use a lot of force plates. That's kind of telling us a little deeper dive into the athlete, kind of what type of athlete they are they compensating? What are areas for on the performance side do they need help to kind of improve? And they also will do kind of just a global assessment of athletes. And then we also have our team nutritionist. She will decide she'll basically figure out meal plans for their goals. Some guys need to gain weight, some guys need to lose weight, some guys may be vitamin deficient, and then she'll handle all that. Like I said, getting here has not been easy. I'll say that. Getting into sports, I actually started out like, how many of you are actually kinesiology? That's your degree. Is that most everybody? No, some. When I first got in to do kinesiology, I thought it was kind of explained to me, this is the prereq into a bunch of different fields that you want to go into post-grad, right? So what is it, right? It's kind of an exposure to a lot of different fields. So fortunately for me, when I got into kinesiology, it gave me a good exposure into maybe physical therapy, if you want to go into teaching, if you want to go into maybe you got to be a clinician, kinesiology, applied exercise physiologist, all that kind of stuff, right? So what I quickly decided, as most strength coaches in the field, they will, there are a lot of them are former athletes. And that was myself. I was a former athlete, played basketball, played at a very low level, at a Division III level. I'm in the Santa Cruz area. And the reason why I gravitated more towards the performance side is because that's what I was missing. I realized I was a shooter who was too slow and didn't jump high enough. And a decent size, 6'2", two guard, probably could handle at a D1 level, D2 level, but I had none of those things. So when I decided to get into the field, I was kind of more like, hey, I want to be what I didn't have. For me, it wasn't because I was afraid of the work. It was, I didn't know, what am I supposed to do? How do I get faster? How do I move better side to side? How do I jump higher? How do I get stronger? How do I get bigger to withstand, guarding bigger guards, all that type of stuff, right? So that's what kind of led me down this path into exploring more of the performance side rather than getting into being a sport coach. So this started for me, I was in college, I was done playing, didn't really know what I wanted to do with my kinesiology degree. And then I found out you can get paid to coach and train athletes. And that's really what kind of got me started down this path. Breaking into coaching, particularly if you're going to, strength conditioning sport coaches, it is a grind. And you really have to make sure this is something that you love to do. So basically what I did was I was starting a little behind at the time. I was already married. I had a son at the time. So I couldn't kind of go the traditional path of going to just intern full time at your school. So I'll even get calls or emails from students here where it's like, hey, can I just shadow? Can I figure all this out? I was in Stockton at the time. All I did was I just wrote an email to the director of strength conditioning at University Pacific. I said, hey, John Wall, former athlete. I don't know anything. Can I come and just check it out? See if this is what I want to do. He's like, cool, sure, come on by. And there was a small staff. He's like, I have an assistant right here. He runs groups in the morning. You can come shadow with him and he's going to he'll take care of it. It's like, all right. So I showed up 5 a.m. the next day. I had at the time I was finishing my degree. So I was doing that full time online. I also had to work full time because I did have family. So I was starting an intern in the morning, go from about 5 a.m. to about 9 a.m., go to my real job, do school at night. And it's a grind. It absolutely is a grind. But I found out very quickly, I love this stuff. This stuff is awesome. Like I could do this all day and I do it for free. And I did. I had to do it for free I was at University of Pacific for 5 years. The first 2.5, I was unpaid, not paid. But the best thing about University of Pacific is I'm not here today if it was not for my time there. Because what that allowed me to do is I got exposure to every single team on campus. I worked with every single team on campus at one point or another. So what that did was allow me to see multiple different sports, multiple different athletes from different backgrounds. And you're really learning how to problem solve, if that makes sense. Like that's our job. We are trying to solve whether it's movement, compensation patterns, whether there's weaknesses are, all that type of stuff. And I'm learning that by seeing all these different athletes, and that's actually helped me become a better basketball strength coach, if that makes sense. So I was there unpaid as an intern. I got my first real opportunity in hockey, actually, believe it or not. There was a team in Stockton, the Stockton Heat. They are were the Calgary Flames AHL affiliate, which is like their farm team. And Stockton got an opportunity to go over there and work with hockey for a year. Did that for one season, then they hired me back at University Pacific full time. Fine, my first real full time assistant position. Started out there, I was an assistant there for 2 years. So during the COVID year and then the year after, primarily worked with baseball and then some aquatics. That helped me out a lot. Baseball can be a very complicated sport, as Coach can tell you. There's a lot of just very rotational athletes are much more complex than jumping high and running fast, right? So I was able to be there for 2 years as an assistant. Then I was elevated to the director of sport performance, where I oversaw everything at my time there. The job there as director is very different than what it is here. I was overseeing all the Olympic sports. I had assistants that oversee all the teams, but I had to oversee all the 17 varsity sports, as well as work with men's basketball and men's golf at the time. Did that, loved it. Then opportunity came actually to come out here to Vegas. I don't know who is familiar. You guys, anybody familiar with the G League Ignite, what they were? So essentially what the G League Ignite was at the time, this started 2021. The NBA decided to have an initiative because back then NIL wasn't a thing. So it was like, hey, we're going to give these top prospects who are, because there is a rule before you get drafted to the NBA, you have to go to college for 1 year before you can enter the draft. So there's a lot of guys that would go to college for 1 year, do their year there, then they go to the draft. So what they decided what they wanted to do was run this little experiment to say, hey, we're going to offer the top prospects in the country an opportunity to come here play in the G League, which is the NBA's developmental league. You can come play here, you're going to get NBA coaching, you're going to get NBA rules, and you're also going to get paid, which was the big one. Because back then, when they first had the idea, college NIL wasn't a thing, college athletes were not getting paid. So they did that for 2 years, and then they were in Walnut Creek, California, which is in the Bay Area, and then they decided they wanted to move operations out here to Henderson, play at Was Dollar Loan Arena, that's the Lee's Family Farm. We're going to play out there. When they decided to move them out here, they decided to expand the staff, made a bigger sports performance team, and I had the opportunity to come join. Got out here. That was an incredible experience. You're working with basically think top lottery picks. But so you have kind of the best of both worlds for me. So I love college because you're still in that developmental phase. You got to develop these dudes physically. And you kind of had that mix with NBA basically scheduling, right? Like, so the G League is you're playing 50 games in about 4.5 months. So what that is games, 2-3 games a week. You're flying commercial, and you got to. It's a bit of a grind, but it was a great opportunity for me because I was able to work with NBA caliber athletes, but also have them be college age, and you kind of still getting that developmental aspect. That makes sense. The program was very successful. We had 13 draft picks over 4 years, which is actually the most out of any university during that time frame. The program, well, this would be in spring of 2024. The NBA kind of saw the rise in NIL and how college athletes are getting paid. That's starting to exceed what they want to do. So they decided to kind of shut that down. You know what? Don't want to pay for it. They can go to college and get paid now. Our work is done. And we're done here. So the program closed and I had to figure out, okay, cool, what's next? My family absolutely loved it out here in Henderson. I love it out here in Henderson, but don't have a job. You need to go find a job. So I had the opportunity to go to LA to join the Lakers organization, where I spent last year. The last year was it was a very bittersweet experience for me because it was not only the most rewarding, considering that is my childhood team that I grew up rooting for, right? Like everybody has that dream to get into sports, working for the team you grew up rooting for. So I had that opportunity, but my family was not going to be coming with me. They were going to be staying out here. They love it out here. I was not going to move them to LA and I kind of uproot them again. So it was a combination of the most rewarding professionally, but also the toughest year of my life. Family was coming back on off days, just trying to get, as much as I possibly could. But it was a very awesome experience. The NBA is a very different world compared to college. You have just so many more games. Just the job itself as a strength coach is very different because you're kind of more managing these guys to stay healthy through 82 games or more if they make it to the playoffs versus within college, you're really developing guys to get them better year round, if that makes sense. So the opportunity last spring to come back out here to get home and to get back into college, back in the UNLV is something I obviously could not pass up. And I jumped at that opportunity to come back here. So that's where we are today. That's where we are today, back here at UNLV. And it's been a wonderful experience. My biggest thing, I think, for you guys, like that I want you guys to know is like, yes, like the job is very rewarding because it's fun. You're working in sports, right? I tell people all the time, it's not a real job, right? I get to show up in shorts and a t-shirt. I get to go to games. I'm traveling with the team. I'm working with them. I get hands-on with athletes, all that kind of stuff. But it also it's not an easy field to break into. It is very competitive because everybody wants these jobs, right? It's very fun, very rewarding, can be high paying once you kind of do your time and get up to the top. But it is a grind to get in. You gotta work for free for several years. And it's just a lot of hours and a lot of time you got to spend to get into it. But I would say is that if any of you guys are interested in it, I want to be able to help you as best you can, whether it's answering questions, what you guys want to get into, areas we could help you here to give you just some exposure. I've had a couple students already reach out to me and I kind of tell them all the same thing. If you want to get into this or kind of really see what it looks like, the best thing to do is say, hey, reach out to whether it's myself, Jamie Wynn, she's the director of the Olympic sport, to say, hey, I'm a student here. I think I want to get into, strength conditioning. Can I just come watch and just really see what it is? I've had athletes say from day one, they know I want to be a coach. This is what I want to do. This is awesome. Other ones, not really for me. I kind of like a work-life balance. Kind of like days off. I kind of like holidays off. I kind of like this stuff. And they kind of go do something else, which is fine. So what I kind of want to do, I want this to be very interactive. There's a million different directions I can go in talking about the nuances of the job and all these different things. But I really want to provide the most value for you guys to be able to answer your guys' questions and kind of like, hey, what do we want to know? So does anybody like have like a topic you want to steer me in, and I would gladly kind of go in depth? Yes, sir.
So obviously you were working a lot of time with Pacific and then you bounced around. Did you attain any like certifications through all those times?
Great question. Skip that. So to be a strength coach, now there are kind of, there's some standard things, like it's kind of like if you submit an application for a job, they're gonna look at your resume and there's a couple things they're just gonna check. Okay, cool. He meets the like minimum qualifications. That makes sense. So to be a coach now, you pretty much got to have a master's degree. That's pretty safe. Get your undergrad. Undergrad is not as important as what your postgrad, your master's degree in is, I would say. But as long as and when I was hiring, I was looking at, okay, cool, undergrad, check. What did you get your master's in? Usually you want it something within the related field, if that makes sense. So for me, I did kinesiology in my undergrad, and then I did applied biomechanics was my master's. And so you can go exercise physiology. You can get a kinesiology master's if you want to do that. Biomechanics, any one of those things work. So that's just the education piece. And then there's a million different certifications. If you are interested in getting like your first one, my recommendation is the CSCS, which is from the National Strength and Conditioning Association. That's kind of been for a long time the gold standard for certifications, where that one applies to, you can get that one and you can work in college, you can work in the NBA, and it kind of, or really any sport, really, at professional or college level. There's a couple other ones. There's a college strength conditioning certification you can get, which personally I think is actually better in terms of like, I think what you have to know to pass, I think it's harder to pass. I think the knowledge you have to display to pass is a lot better, but that's not something that's as, like, that's more for, it'll get you a job in college. But I've already seen it with guys trying to get jobs in the NBA and they're like, nah, that's a college. Like, because most of the times GMs are making these high. The front offices are making the hires in the NBA most of the time. They get recommendations from the head strength coach or your head medical team, but at the end of the day, they're usually the ones signing up and they want to see a standardized certification. So what I would do if I were you or wanted to get, I would get your CSCS first. That is going to be that's going to cover all your bases. And pretty much everything else after that is going to be more towards, maybe you want to get certified in something you're actually interested in, maybe a specialty, or something like that. That's kind of what I would go with.
Yeah, John, so you said, you've been with an organization your entire career.
Yeah.
So for you, might be like a personal question, but do you see yourself transitioning into the private sector or do you want to stay with an organization?
That's a great question. And it's a very tricky question. The job itself, I'm a sicko. So I love the team setting. Like to me, so much of why I love training athletes is because you're a part of it, right? It's kind of like, to me, the next best thing rather than to be like actually on the floor with them or a part of the team, right? Because you're on staff, like I am. So here, my role here is even different from the last time I was in college. Like I'm technically part of the coaching staff in a sense, like I'm in all their coaching meetings. So when we kind of come to my area, I'm giving them updates and kind of everything that's going on, but I'm also sitting in there for how they're talking about recruiting, what they're talking about practice plans, what type of offense we're going to run, how we're going to attack this game plan this week for, Chattanooga on Saturday, like that type of stuff. So I'm in on all those meetings, which is awesome because I love it, because I love basketball. So I do not want to leave the team setting right now because it's because I love it so much. But on the other side, the private setting really does have a ton of benefits. One, if you have a family like I do, it is going to be much easier to family. And that is maybe one day I do transition more to private. I would say it is much easier in the family, and it's an important aspect of it. Your earning potential is so much more in the private sector. It really is. If you want to, that's kind of the joke within coaches, like all this stuff. It's like, I'm doing my time and get my credibility. I'm gonna go finally go make some money afterwards. And you're gonna go do that after. Like, so that is part of it. So it's kind of a trade-off. It's kind of really which you, that's kind of a preferencing what you like. I love just training athletes. So I may go down that road one day. But right now I love the team setting at Psycho.
And I do have a follow-up to that,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No,
So
no.
I know you touched on it, like the developmental stage of
Yeah.
athletes, like, so I played professional basketball, so
Yeah.
I understand the
Yeah.
differences when pros are working out versus college guys are training. Can you talk about like, the major differences, maybe between the
Yeah.
attitudes between pros and
Yeah.
college guys?
Yeah, so I would say a lot of times, a lot of guys, well, one, there's a main thing, right? You're dealing with grown adults who are millionaires. That's the NBA side. Versus college, it's changing now because there are some millionaires now at college. So that's why when I came back, I said, this is a different world. Like this is different from 3 years ago when I was in college class. But what I would say is the biggest difference is, I guess, in the past, there are a lot of coaches who stayed in college their entire career simply because they cannot handle having to kind of placate to grown-ups who are making 20 times what they're making. And like sometimes the power dynamic is more suited to certain personalities for college, where it's like because there's still a little bit of that, like, I'm the coach, you're gonna do as I say, I have more control. So there's that aspect to it. But in terms of the actual job itself, if you're looking at it just from a holistic point of view, it's different because in college, there's way less games and you have them year round. It makes it a little different now just because the rules have changed where guys can leave every year if they want to with the transfer portal. But typically you're going to have a guy at least for 12 months. Like they'll get here in June when summer workouts start and they're not going to technically be able to leave until school gets out in May. So you really have guys. So what that allows me to do and why I like that is I can actually plan something. I have 12 months to actually put together a plan that with phases that build on the next and actually achieve the goals that we're trying to get to, right? So you have, and with the games being only 32, the 35, then the tournament, all that stuff, there's more time in between games, so your training is a little less interrupted in season. Whereas on the NBA side, the off season, unless you're a young guy, you're out of there. They're gone. They don't want to see you. They don't want to be at the facility. They're going to be traveling around. You'll see a lot of them out here. So like, even if you come by Mendenhall, you'll see a lot of NBA dudes working out in the summer. They're going to be in Vegas for 3 days and they're going to Paris for Fashion Week. Then they're going back to LA. Like they're all over the place. Like their lives are just not something that we really could comprehend. They live a different life. So, but in season, when we do have them, they'll usually report around training camp and they'll be through the whole season. You really are just having them like during the season, right? Like when they're playing 82 games. And so the job is really like manage these guys to keep them on the floor. The job looks a little different because so you're kind of more of a stress manager, if that makes sense, rather than a developmental strength coach. So guys will get in, let's say you have to map out a whole month, the whole week, and then kind of just go, okay, so all right, so we have a game Monday, practice Tuesday, game Thursday, Friday, and then we travel. So like, it's like, okay, where are we getting our training? So what we kind of have to do, I'll get you right up. What we kind of have to do is kind of what I like to do, I kind of microdose it in a way. So instead of in college, you can go, all right, cool. Big day is going to be Monday. We'll have kind of a lighter day Tuesday, and then we'll kind of do a ramp up on Wednesday, and then we're going to play Thursday. With the NBA, it's like you kind of just have to, they train every day. Most guys will train. Your game days are actually the day you're actually going to get a majority of trainings because you have 82 games. It just looks very different. So you take your weekly volume, like whatever you want to accomplish in one week, that normally gets spread out over like 3 main workouts. You're just taking those 3 workouts and you're spreading them across every day. So a lot of times, guys, it kind of varies. It's a little different, but like on a game day, for example, in the NBA, you usually have guys come in and shoot around. They might get their lift in there, or some guys, each guy will also have like an activation window in a weight room at the arena, and they'll usually get a little lift in there. It's like 15, 20 minutes. Let's say, volume's really low, but you can kind of get the intensity up a little bit. You just really condense your volume, you just spread everything out. So I'd say that's really the difference between developing young guys. Like the thing I kind of use with our guys now, like some of our freshmen, is like, if you want to get to the league, you kind of have to earn the right to train like a LeBron, right? So Bron is a dude, he like when I got to the Lakers, I kind of thought a lot of this, I was like, all right, man, like how much of this stuff is like for social media, for this stuff? That dude, everything you hear is actually 100% true, which is crazy. It's crazy. This dude has been doing it for 24 years. Every home game, games at 7, he is there at 2 o'clock on the dot every single home, every single time. I was like, okay, maybe sometimes he does it. There's no way. Every time, because I was there, I saw him. Like I saw him every single game, like home game. He's there 2 o'clock. He has the same routine. He's gonna go in. He's gonna get treatment. He's gonna go into the weight room, get his little lift in. He's gonna go to the court. He's gonna go back, do some recovery, eat some food, watch some film, go play. So what I tell our guys now is you have to earn that right because he spent so much of his young years really training to develop that strength in his base, his overall base, so that he can kind of train to kind of just manage and stay healthy and have the longevity of his career. If I have one of my freshmen that comes in at 6'9", 190 pounds, him training that way, he's not going to get anywhere. And that's actually not going to be longevity for him. He needs to build strength, build size, build his base, build his exercise library so his movement quality is good. And then once you kind of earn that right, then you can train that way later on. That's kind of the main differences, I would say.
I know you kind of touched on how like the NBA players kind of structure their routines, but
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, like, did you go more in depth on how you periodize your college players? Like, let's say you
Yeah.
get June through May.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So great question. This is stuff I'll nerd out about. I'll talk about all the time. So summer, that's my time. Summer's my time, season's coach's time, and we kind of flip. So what we're trying to build this year was a little different, I would say, because I got here literally 10 days before summer workout started. That's kind of when I was hired. That's when I started. And then all of our coaches got hired in probably 3 weeks before that. So we have an entire new coaching staff and 11 of our 12 players are also transfers. So everybody's new. So we've been kind of building the plane in midair, if that makes sense, as we're kind of just figuring out as we go. But ideally, the way I structure it is that's the other thing too about college, you have what's called countable athletic hours. So you only are allowed a certain amount of time per week to have organized training, whether that's on court or with me. Whereas the NBA is you can do whatever you want, spend as much time as you want. So that makes it a little easier on that side. But how we'll structure it typically is summertime, that's my time. We are really trying to build our base in the summertime because that's going to be our only real time of year where there's uninterrupted training. There's no games. There's not really any holidays. It's just we get 8 straight weeks in the summer to just train. And then we're going to kind of get into more practice when we get back when school starts. So that 8 weeks, I like to take, instead of a lot of teams will do it differently in college, but typically what I had in the past specific is it'd be 4 hours would be with me, then 4 hours with the coaches staff to do practice, individuals, all that kind of stuff. The way I like to do it is I like to get 5 hours and then the coaching staff get 3. Because I'm trying to really spend as much time to maximize our summer so that when we get to when school starts and practice starts, then the coaches can kind of take over and kind of do it that way. But the summer is 5 hours spread over. So I'll go 5 days. They're going to lift. Our first 4 weeks are really going into like build a base. I want a lot of volume. We're going to try and just raise our capacity as much as we can. How much work can we handle? So the time you'll hear me say, I don't care how much weight we're moving right now. I just want you to move it well. And you're going to complete the workout in the time we're getting. So we're trying to just build, we're getting moving again. It's a little different now because since the transfer portal, a lot of these guys are shut off. If they get into the portal when the season ends, they get 10 weeks where they get locked out of the facility at their own school and they're really not doing a whole lot. So when they get to me, we're kind of just getting reintroduction back into training. So what I like to do with the first 4 weeks is really kind of that. We're building that base back up. Think general training. We're just, we'll get in the weight room. We're going to do a lot of volume, maybe a lot of sets, a lot of exercise. We're just going. Then our conditioning kind of reflects that too. We'll get them out on the track. And a lot of tempo runs, basically, go 100 yards. It's boom, you're running down. Think, if a 10 is your all out sprint, we're going out like a speed 7, you're going down, you're going to rest, and we're just boom, just tempo runs, just going. So what it allows us to do is to run several miles without feeling completely beat up because you're getting a little rest in there. It's not at a crazy intensity. And we're just adding volume, a lot of stuff. We're also building tissue capacity. So I like to do a lot of slow eccentrics. What that is whatever the lowering phase is in the lift, you're doing it at a tempo. slow. So I will set them all up, count it out. You're gonna go down in 5 seconds, 6 seconds, whatever it is. Because what we're doing is we're really trying to prepare tendons, ligaments for more advanced stuff later on in the summer as we're trying to peak for the season. So everything in that first 4 weeks about a base. Second week after that, think around summer league, 4th of July, those next 4 weeks in July, we're trying to ramp up the intensity a little bit, adding more weight, add a little more rest so they could, pursue lift a little more. We'll throw in some sprint work at that time as well. Because we're really just trying to build their capacity to withstand practice, really. Because like once we kind of get to that second half of the 8 weeks, like practice is right around the corner. That's what coach is going to be running. It's a lot of high intensity start and stops. And we have to kind of prepare those tendons to that load. So base first, ramp up intensity. Once we kind of we get back that September time, that's when official practice starts. We jump from 8 hours to 20 hours. It's just a lot more. That's when we start to ramp up, start to peak. I think that's when we're going to be doing a lot more of our plyometrics, a lot more of our jump stuff. We're trying to peak them with power. So we're kind of at our best as we go into the season. So that's kind of how I would structure our summer. Yes, ma'am.
So just kind of holistically pivoting a little bit, a lot of the students here are sport management students.
Okay.
So I wanted to kind of pick your brain. First, how much do you collaborate like with the operations staff on things like scheduling to make
Yeah.
sure the student athletes are well prepared? And have you ever been affected maybe positively or negatively by a business decision, for example, that may have affected training and recovery?
Yes, absolutely. So great question. I actually, when I was my freshman year, actually thought I wanted to go in the sports management route. I actually started that route. Found out this is not for me. This is not what I want to do. I want to get back into performance. That's why I pivoted. But yes, it's going to look very different. So in college, your director of basketball operations is going to be he or she is the one who manages everything, the scheduling, the travel, when food's going to get there, when we're practicing, they're responsible for sending everything out. You have to have a great relationship with your Dobo in college. If you're on the NBA side, it's basically that same role, but they're kind of more the front office. They're kind of in charge of like, okay, they're handling the whole logistical side, which is a little more of a nightmare in the NBA because you're doing way more travel, flying private. So you can dictate times of flights, when to be there, when to go, all that kind of stuff. It can make your life very difficult if you do not communicate with this person, because this person really sets up your entire schedule so that I can do what I want to do with my guys. So if I do not have a communication with him, then I am not able to set my times for lifts, to properly ramp up into practice, or even I have to meet with him, even coming back to college, class schedule, that is still a thing. Guys still go to class. He's going to be filling me in like, okay, can't go at this time or this time because boom, 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 has class this time, this time, this time. So there is so much collaboration between whoever's managing kind of just the logistical side to what I do. And it's just not going to work if you do not have kind of that line of communication and kind of like, you just have to be really organized and really map out. I think it's a big puzzle and everything just kind of fitting. Yes, ma'am.
You said that this feels very competitive.
Yes.
You worked your way up in your career. What are things that you did looking back that set you apart to kind of get these roles that you got?
Awesome question. So that's another actually really good topic I want to touch on. So it's very competitive because there are more people that want these jobs than jobs are available, right? NBA only 30, well, there's 30 head positions, and then usually they'll have a couple assistants, but there's only 30 NBA organizations. There's only 340 some Division I basketball programs in the country. There's just not a whole lot. One thing that I did, and the biggest piece of advice I give, and this goes for if you actually want to get into strength conditioning, if you want to get into sports management, like whatever it is like you're constantly looking where you're at, whether you're an intern, your entry level job, is you need to your main focus needs to be killing it at that current position before you start looking to where I want to be, right? So what I did was I kind of developed, okay, whatever is when I started out my first semester when I was an intern, I didn't do anything. It's kind of, it was different time, but it was like, don't even speak to athletes, don't do nothing, you just sit there, and I sat there and just watched, really, for a whole semester. Didn't do anything, stood there, corner of the room. Okay, trying to just take mental notes, okay, what are we doing, trying to figure out what he's doing, why they're doing it, all that kind of stuff. Eventually kind of worked into, I'll start, hey, I'm loading plates, moving stuff here, cleaning the room, like all these different things. I was willing to do literally whatever I had to do just to help and be part of it. But I kind of developed this mindset of, okay, whatever I'm asked to do, I'm gonna kill it and be the best I could possibly be at it. If I have to just load and unload plates, if I just have to set up the lift, clean up the room, actually clean the floors, you know, do all that stuff, I'm gonna be the best I could possibly be at that. And really what it was, what they saw, and that is like, a lot of times with interns, it's kind of more of just like, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's really a screening out process to see if you're cut out for it. That's really what it is. It has nothing to do with like, is it, yes, are you stocking fridges and cleaning up the room and setting up lids? Like, yeah, you gotta do all that stuff, right? But a lot of it's just like, hey, can this person have the mental fortitude and the resilience to just say, this is what I have to do. I don't love to do it. I'm gonna do it anyway, and I'm gonna kill it. And I'm gonna show up every day excited to do it and be here before everybody else. I'm gonna stay late and I'm gonna do all that stuff. The second piece that is super important, and it doesn't like to get talked about a lot, is when you get to the level of UNLV or the NBA, I'm not looking on Indeed or wherever they're posting it. Oh, that job looks cool. Let me send an application and apply. Those jobs are filled already. You have to do that for HR purposes, but that's not how these jobs get hired, right? It's kind of the same as for a sport coach. So if you see in the college, like college football, college basketball, you see all these, there's a lot of movement, a lot of college football, there's a lot of coaches being fired, right? They contact you if they want you, essentially, right? Your network, that's why your networking and who you get to know is going to be so important. What I did when I was there, I was in Stockton, and I kind of had the thought one day of like, oh snap, we have professional team 45 minutes away up in Sacramento. We have two professional basketball team over in San Francisco. We have two at the time professional football teams in the Bay Area. We have two baseball teams. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to just reach out to as many of these as possible to say, hey, my name is John Wall. I'm an intern at the University of Pacific, trying to work my way up. I would love, can I buy you a coffee and have a few minutes of your time to just pick your brain? So that's literally what I did. I was able to, I first reached out to the director at the time at Santa Clara, which is about an hour from Stockton. They're in the same conference. I thought, okay, this is great. He was super gracious with his time. Said, hey, he's like, you know what? He's like, you need to get in contact with the assistant strength coach for the Sacramento Kings. He was here at Santa Clara last year. If you just reach out to him, hit him on Instagram, I'm sure he'll talk. So I did. So I reached out and said, hey, Ed, my name's John. Can I come up there? Couldn't have been nicer. Said, come on up, come talk. I got to know those guys. So head strength coach at the time was Ramsey Nijum. He is now the director of performance at Kansas. Evan Van Beesler, who was the assistant at the time, he went on, left Sacramento, went to the University of Oregon, be director for men's basketball there. And I got to know those guys, and really those guys just like, they had no business talking to me. There was no reason why they needed to, but they did anyway, because they just wanted to help. They want to help all the young guys. And that's actually why I feel indebted to, like, now anybody who ever hits me up for stuff, I will talk to literally anybody to help in the best way I can. But that just started. So you meet with them. Cool. Get along, good vibe. They see I'm ambitious. I'm really working at this, know my stuff. Hey, you should go talk to this person. Hey, you should go talk to, and it's just, you meet somebody who says, I can put you in touch with this person, put you in touch with this person, and you just build your network. And that's super important. Even if you want to go into the management side, is you get to know people. And then it's like, well, hey, who else do you know? Can I go talk to them? Can I go talk to them? Can I go talk to them? And in this field as a coach, it's kind of weird, in a normal job, you want to look at someone's resume, right? And you're going to see, hey, you've worked at, let's say you were at Google for 5 years. Oh, sweet, you're there a long time. That means you know what you're doing. In this field, they actually want to see you be at a lot of different spots, because it shows you've been at multiple places. You see the way they do things. I mean, they know other people who have different experiences, and they think you're more prepared for that job. So I would say the biggest thing, whatever role you're in, especially when you're entry level, you kill it. Absolutely kill. You're going to be the best you possibly be. And that is what's actually going to help you land your next bigger job and move your way up way faster than like, hey, do I need to post on social media? Do I need to, do all these other, do I need to play the politic games? Like, just focus on killing it and talk to as many people as you possibly can. That's what I'd say. Yes, sir.
Piggybacking on her question a little bit. So one thing that you said at the beginning of your talk, that in Pacific, you worked with every sport that was there. Eventually, you had a hand in every sport that was there. So, as interns, unless it's specified that you're gonna be working with this sport specifically, you're gonna have a hat, a hand working with all those sports. So, that was my background.
Yeah.
Started off with strength and conditioning. My first internship was mainly with football. I got a football background, but I saw working in football from that perspective, and I'm strictly speaking for me. I love the game, but as far as me working in it, probably the environment is probably not for me. But from your perspective, could you please talk about how important it is to understand the environment that you're going in? And it's kind of a two-part question to talk about how important it is to understand which environment you're going in. And on top of that, how important is it to specialize your skill if you want to work in a said sport?
Yeah, so I would say it's kind of like anything else. It's any skill you're learning. You kind of start as a generalist and then you kind of go more into a specialty. Again, I think that applies to any career field you want to go into. Start with just as broad knowledge as possible. What that's going to do also, not only does that give you a good base, as we've talked about, but it's also like, it just gives you exposures to what you're actually interested in. I think for me, I always knew I wanted to work with basketball. Like I knew I wanted to be a basketball strength coach just because I was a former player. I loved the game. I think I love the culture, the basketball culture, and I think I fit with it. And I just think it's definitely more of a relationship side versus football or other sports where football is more military. It's more drill sergeant, high energy. I can bring energy, but that level of energy on a day-to-day is a bit much for me. That I'm kind of more of a chill, laid back type of guy. But what I would say is I didn't know at the time when I first started interning, I wanted to go, I just wanted to work with men's basketball. And I just interned with the basketball strength coach, guys do that. And what I was so lucky is my mentor, that I'm still one of my best friends in the field to this day, is he said, that's not what's gonna get you down. It's there. Why don't you go learn how to coach our women's field hockey team? And that's gonna help you. At the time, I was like, why? What's that gonna do for me? But he was so right, because and why it helped learning all these different sports. One, just it increases it makes your toolbox bigger, right? We talked about as a coach, as a strength coach, you're just a problem solver. You're seeing I have 15 athletes, men's basketball. Each one of them is so different. You have 6'11" guys, you have 5'9" guys that are all built certain, so everybody's different. So what that did was by being exposed to all these different other sports, one, it solidified, okay, I really do want to work with basketball. In your case, to work with, I thought I wanted to do this. Football's not for me. I want to go down in the other direction. But what it did was it really increased my toolbox. There's still stuff to this day that I rely on for my time working with baseball. Starting out, baseball is my first real team. He gave me baseball, men's and women's water polo, and sand volleyball. Those are my 4 first teams when I became an official. Hey, you're running the show. These are your teams. You're responsible. What he said at the time is if you can learn to work with rotational athletes and do it well, you can work with anybody. And he was right. He was 100% right. I think if you can work with baseball, understand the shoulder elbow complex and understand the rotational sport, and you can do that really well, you can literally work me. Everything else is much easier after that. But there's still stuff to this day that I rely on to help with basketball players that I learned in baseball. Like I've had a couple shoulder injuries. I'm able to kind of the skills I learned working with them, able to tie in with basketball just because I've had to rehab some shoulders. We actually had one this year, landed, dislocated shoulder, had to do his rehab. So I think that helped a lot. But I think the biggest thing, I think when you're kind of young in your career and you're trying to get into, I think so much of this is you don't know. You might think you know what direction you want to go in, but you don't know till you get there, right? So I think the biggest thing in my case is working on different sports. In your case, you might be going into, there's so many different aspects of sports management as that you can do. It's being exposed to as much stuff as possible, because then you're going to find out what fits your personality, what fits your interest. You always want to pursue what you're interested in. That's kind of my number one indicator if someone's going to make it or not, is are they passionate about it? They love it. So I'd say that was kind of the biggest reasons why that was so helpful for me.
Kind of a two-part question. Where do you think strength and conditioning professionals such as yourself can have a bigger voice in the organizational
Yeah.
decision making? And what are like one to two really or bigger things that you wish they had at least a foundational understanding of in order to best support student athletes in this
Yeah.
specifics?
So in college, like the reason why I like being a strength coach more than I would prefer, even though I love basketball, being an actual sport coach, I actually spend the most time with athletes than anybody. Because I see them literally every single day. I'll see them every single day and multiple times a day, whereas a lot of times sport coaches are just seeing a couple of them for individual stuff, or they're seeing them just at practice. So I think that aspect of I really get to set the tone of what the team culture is going to be like, just because I spend so much time with them. And I also have the most insight because as you guys, if you've ever been coaching, the athletes will talk to you, they will vent to you about what their frustrations are, what they want to see changed. Coach isn't playing me enough. I think I'm playing out of position. You're going to see all these different stuff. And you kind of get an insight into all those things. I think because of that information that allows us or people in my role to have or should have more of a voice in terms of like, yo, coach, in our case, it's coach, or NBA, it's GM. It's you kind of have insights, you guys are really cooked. Maybe there's not stuff you're thinking about. I have to hear about, okay, your point guard just broke up with his girlfriend. Your shooting guard he's really behind in his classes. You kind of just get all this insight to what's going on in their personal life, what's going on with all this stuff. And you kind of just gain all that information. So I think it allows us to, because we have that information, we're kind of able to best dictate decisions that are made in terms of like, okay, what's practice going to look like today, and that type of stuff, I would say. I would say within, that's very much same true in the professional setting as well. You're spending a lot of time with these guys. They will also waste some things to you, kind of a little more of a relationship with them, I would say. So it just kind of gives you more insight, and that's where it should be used more, where it's like, hey, you spend the most time with them. What's going on? How do you think we could best help them? And then from a performance side too, it's like, that's our specialty. Like we're supposed to, it really the same concepts that I use to properly create their program in the weight room and how to periodize it correctly. We're able to have that knowledge to help coaches, sport coaches too. How do you get a practice plan that best prepares them for their next competition, so they're not underloading them or they're overloading them, if that makes sense. Yes.
What are your thoughts on all this conference realignment and the increased demands for travel, scheduling, classes?
It's insane. It really is. It's insane. College sport, like I said, like the last time I was here, it looked nothing like it does today. And what's sad about it, in my opinion, is that it's mostly all driven for football, a little bit from basketball too, just because those are the revenue generating sports. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for a women's soccer player that goes to USC to be playing a conference game in New Jersey or Rutgers. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. But that is kind of the world we're in, right? Like in it kind of just a good microcosm into the larger stuff. Like money is going to drive a lot of these stuff. Didn't used to be that way, but it is now. It really changes. Like for me, it's a little different because I work with one of the men's basketball is not affected as much. They got bigger budgets. They can fly private. They can do all this stuff. But for like our Olympic strength coaches, for sure, like because it goes into like they have to change everything about their program because they have to factor in, wow, you have 3 cross-country flights in this month, or it's going to be, hey, you're staying 2 weeks on the East Coast or the West Coast because you're just going to stay there instead of coming back and forth because you have, you're for the Olympic sports, you have back-to-back games against 2 teams in your conference that are on the other side of the country. So I would say it's just a whole other level of variables you have to factor in. And I think if you want to really simplify my role is like for a type of personality to make it also too is you have to be somebody that's adaptable. Like I think that's the number one thing I would say is because if you're somebody who cannot deviate from your plan, you're not going to make it. Like it's because nothing is ever, because you're going to get it, whether it's someone's going to override you, sport coach, nope, don't want to do that, I want to do this, or well, this popped up. Like you always have to be, your plan always has to be written in pencil and not pen. Like you have to be able to adapt. One of my mentors, his analogy was you gotta be able to hit the curveball. So if you're a strength coach, you gotta be able to hit the curve. You gotta be able just to adapt to what's next. And like, there's gonna be so many things thrown at you. That's gonna pop up today. Oh, by the way, you didn't know your team's coming in to train, you know, when you're on the Olympic side, you weren't supposed to train today. Well, I have a whole group of athletes who somehow the schedule got messed up. They're here now. Write a program for them. You know, NBA, same thing. It's gonna be, oh, hey, can you take so-and-so? He skipped out yesterday because he had to shoot a commercial. He's lifting today. Do you have anything for him? Well, I didn't, but I'll get something for him real quick. And you just have to be on your toes, be able to just adapt things. There's just so many variables in athletics.
Almost like we got 2 more questions. Time for 2 more questions. Yeah, buddy.
Due to like the increase in like the soft tissue injuries, how do you what do you think about load management at the collegiate level?
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of factors that go into the load management side. Obviously, that's starting with the NBA. I think you have to dive a little deeper into why this is happening. And I think there's a lot of different variables. So on the NBA side, it's not an accident that we even have to have that term at younger and younger ages. I've talked to, when I was at Combine, at the NBA Combine in May, I was talking to a few college strength coaches who were there because they're just supporting their guys who are at the Combine. And they're talking about like, man, this is crazy. I've never had this before where the coach is coming to me and being like, don't care what you do, just make sure he's ready for practice. Don't care, like doesn't need a lift, just make him feel good so we can practice. And he said, I just never had this many injuries before. I don't know what's going on. So one, NBA, I think a lot of it is style of play is a big one. Like there's just way more possessions, way more the spacing, and the athletes are freaks now. There's just such a high level of decelerations and accelerations like that they're doing. So the pace, like you gotta think now versus, Michael Jordan was playing, they're all playing 82 games. When I was with Ignite, I had funny, you mentioned that I had David Stockton, John Stockton's son, and he was telling me a little bit about the way his dad would train in the offseason. And he missed something absurd. It was like 14 games in his whole career, like 20 years. It was something ridiculous, right? So we kind of got the discussion going of like, why were dudes back then? So that's one of them, right? It's just the style of play. It's way more demanding now just because the pace and stuff. But another thing too that is not being talked about enough is it's really starting at the youth level. Like I'm talking to parents, being out here in Vegas, there's a lot of, it's an AAU hotbed. I'm talking to a lot of parents where, and there's numbers in the literature too about how many, for basketball players, youth basketball players, a lot of ACLs, a lot of Achilles, like all that stuff is happening at a younger age. And I think a lot of that has to do with kids are specializing early. So there's like we talked about with college sports, with being a money thing that's affecting the younger levels too. AAU makes a lot of money for certain organizations, especially the big ones. Like it's a business now. So you're having these kids now play 12 months out of the year with a window break. They're playing maybe 5 games a weekend, not really practicing, and they're just getting no break. So they're specializing in just basketball. So they're hammering away at these same movement patterns over and over and over again from 9 years old all the way until they get college, until they get the NBA, and their body just breaks because they're just not physically prepared to handle all that. So the biggest recommendation I give, and I know this goes to college, but it starts younger. So it's starting to be, now it's getting lower and lower because guys are coming to college more broken than they ever have. But a lot of that has to do with, for kids, it's the same thing with my son. My son he's playing a different sport every season. And that's what it used to be. So you talk to, I was listening to, I'm a big Dodgers fan. So I was listening to Mookie Betts talk before. He's like, bro, this is crazy. He's like, when I was growing up, I played all sports. He's like, he was a multi-sport athlete, highly recruited to play basketball, could have gone and played football, and then he also played baseball. Like the multi-sport, the skills you're learning from a skill acquisition standpoint, movement competency standpoint, you're learning by playing other sports as a kid. It really wasn't even in high school. Like a lot of pros now, a lot of them played. Like a lot of, football player, they played baseball too. Most of them are 2-sport athletes. Like even Bron, like played football, he had to that was more of a not really worth it risk wise. I'm gonna stick with basketball after my sophomore year. But most of these high level guys that are older played multiple sports in high school. That's actually really rare now. Like I was talking with some of these high school coaches here, like, oh yeah, we go year round. Like some places don't even allow them to play other sports. Like, nope, you got to be on our travel team. You got to do all this stuff. So I think for me, that's kind of where a lot of this is coming from. It's just too early specialization and their bodies are breaking by the time they get to college, get to the NBA, just because they're specializing too early. So that's kind of why we're seeing that now.
Last one, whoever gets a question.
So back to your previous experience collegiately, how did you go about developing like a knowledge base and establishing credibility in sports you didn't play?
Yeah, so that's a big one, right? Like when I first got there, one of my first teams being water polo, I can't lie to you, I never watched a water polo game in my life. But same thing when I went to hockey, I didn't even really know the rules, to be honest with you, when I first went to work with hockey, but I was early in my career. One of the ways you establish credibility, and like athletes know this, right? Like they're not expecting you to have your sport on that level. I think the biggest thing to get buy-in from them is they want to see that you're trying to understand. So even if you didn't play, the fact that you're like, you know what, I don't really know, but I'm gonna learn. So in college, it was really important to me, like, I'm gonna show up to your games as much. Just the fact they saw me there to not only support them, but I'm also like, you hanging around more, you ask questions more. Okay, so what is this? Oh, what's a strategy using here? What is just finding out that type of stuff? That got probably the best buy-in, I would say, more than anything else. If you don't know anything about it, and especially the Olympic sports, like if you're working with, field hockey, lacrosse, water polo, like all these different sports, even soccer, really, if you're not a soccer person and you've been out there, you're gonna, like, just the fact of you showing up is gonna be a lot of them. It's like, oh man, my strength, normally my strength coach, I just see him when I'm lifting. Like, you're coming out here to support me, like that means a lot to them. And then on top of that, trying to understand, you're talking about, hey, that was awesome. That it was like, I'd use basketball now, just my water polo guys. You basically threw an alley-oop to toss it up, catch, basically dunked on the goalie in water polo. Like, you just use it now, and they kind of see you trying to understand that, and that like means the world to them most of the time. And I would say every Olympic team I've ever worked with are like the coolest people, like they're the coolest athletes, coolest people. And they really, just the fact that you're there and they see you trying, just picking them up, that's usually what. That's what I would have. That's it, for sure.
All right, everybody, appreciate it. Please give Mr. Wall a.
If it sparks kind of your interest, curiosity, kind of want to explore more of the S&C route, please reach out to me or Jamie Nguyen, who's the director of Olympic. We have like an internship program that we have running, but we're trying to get it up running more. But the easiest way to get into it, honestly, is starting now when you're in your undergrad. You can't even take your CSCS certification until you are in the last semester of your bachelor's degree or you're done with it. So if you can start now, you get the exposures, you decide if you actually really want to do it, then it just gives you way more time to kind of build that knowledge base more and kind of help prepare you for that test. So if you guys are interested in it, please reach out to either myself or whoever we can do.
Can we get a group photo with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate it.
But before all this even happens, for starters, great talk. Thank you for sharing your perspective. Thank you for answering everyone's questions. If he didn't get around to your questions, I'm sure he'll leave his email up there where y'all can reach out to him. But this is something that we do like to do, or at least I like to do. Those of you who are familiar with our guest talks, we like to do a quick round of just rapid questions, just so I have some fun, just to pick your brain. So, John, whatever comes to your mind first, just please feel free to fire off. First question I have, you may have said it earlier, but in case we missed it, could you please let us know where you are originally from or what you consider home?
So what's crazy about that, I'm actually from Stockton. That is actually where I am from. So that actually made it easy. I was like, I have a university in town where I am from. And that's actually how I started, because I'm actually from Stockton.
Okay, cool. So you said you grew up a Lakers fan.
I did grow up, so that's okay. So I'll give you a little breakdown. My dad is from Colorado. They don't care about any other teams except the Avalanche and the Denver Broncos. I got all my football from him. So he also went to CU. So I grew up a diehard Colorado Buffaloes fan and a Broncos fan. He didn't really have any other teams. He kind of gravitated like specific teams. So on my mom's side, everybody's from LA. That's where I gravitated toward Dodgers and Lakers. That's where I got that from.
Okay, so you're a Broncos fan.
I am.
All right, rapid fire question. Who would you rather see, the Broncos win the Super Bowl or the Raiders get a franchise QB?
Yeah, that's tough. My worst nightmare was that they were going to draft Shedeur Sanders as a Colorado fan. I was gonna, I'm still taking the Super Bowl, man. You don't get those off. I want a Super Bowl I want them to win a Super Bowl more than I want the Raiders to still be in purgatory forever.
All right, cool. Next question. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No, it's a great, I think question. I've actually changed my opinion.
No, I know, salute, hot dog.
Okay, wrap it, because we have
No,
to
no,
get
no,
go.
it's a hot dog.
All right, thank you.
Hey,
Thank
Bill.
you. Quick photo.
Very quick photo, everybody, if you got time.
Already got the.
No, you guys are good.
You're good. That was perfect.
I like. Thank you guys. Yeah, I'll take it. Come through. Yeah, it was nice. Yeah.
I would email. Yes, everyone just please come in the photo quick, real quick, super fast.
Thank you for having
Oh,
me.
you wanna take it up there?
Just come.
Did you come through? You know what? I'll kneel up front.
Thanks for each other. I know, right?
You gotta get in the center.
No, I gotta get in the center, right? Where you want me to go? I'm a little far, but I'm the tallest.
Smile at the camera in the back of the room. Okay. I think.
You know, I guess I do need.
Right, do I need to
Just
do that?
stand over a little bit, right?
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, forget, thank you. Oh.
Thank you, guys. This was awesome. Thank you for the show. Appreciate it.
Email right there on the board if you need it. Thanks, everybody. Hey, what's up, bro?
You're good, you're good. Thank you all so much.
Oh, my goodness.
Probably up. Hey, how's the league game?
Oh,
Good?
Can I give the ticket to my friend?
I'm actually really interested in looking.
The one that was off the rubber from half.
Sure.
Sorry.
Can I get your?
I give her gift.
Yeah, so for sure, I'm actually not super active. That's what you can all need on Instagram, for sure. So nice.